This is Cthulhu Dark, The Secret of Castronegro 2023 edition. I am very excited to run this. This is my sixth annual Halloween running of The Secret of Castronegro. It is my favorite module, and it's like Christmas to me. I love running it, and I'm very, very excited to introduce it to a brand new group of people. Let's meet those people. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for viewers of the video to know about you. I will start though. My name is Jason. I use he, they. I am a podcaster and game publisher, and very excited to run this again. Like I've noted, I've talked about this module a lot on my podcast, Fear of a Black Dragon. It's sort of the mascot of Fear of a Black Dragon, this module. My co-host is also very fond of it. And I think we're gonna have a really good time. Let's go over to Alex.
Hello, my name is Alex Rabitsky. I use he, they pronouns. I work with the Gauntlet writing on games, and I also co-host our podcast, The Dark and Threshold. And I'm a very big Cthulhu Mythos fan, and I've heard a lot about this module, and this will be my first time playing it, so I actually know very little about it aside from watching the last year's version.
Oh, you know quite a lot then, actually, if you watched last year.
I don't remember a lot of it
that's
because
good.
yeah, I watched it. Yeah,
As long as you've data dumped it, you're good. It's fine. You can know everything about it and still have a good time. Let's go to Gabriel.
I'm Gabriel. I also use he, they. I write games of my own under Glowing Roots Press. I've contributed to a lot of different Gauntlet games, and most recently the Silverses RPG, which I'm the co-writer of with Jason.
Coming out in 2 days in the full release, so that's exciting. Let's go over to Jack.
Hi, I'm Jack. Any pronoun is fine. I'm bad at promoting myself in any capacity. But otherwise, I have heard about this game. I've never played Cthulhu Dark. I know that this particular module has quite a reputation with Jason and others. So I'm just really gagged to be here.
Fantastic. And finally, let's go to Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken, he, him pronouns, and I have owned a copy of this since the late 80s, but I have never played it, and become a huge fan listening to Jason extol its virtues via Fear of the Black Dragon, and just wanting to get a chance to play it excites me. I think it's going to make my Halloween, and I think I have seen all of you in actual plays and different things, so I feel like I'm playing with I'm very grateful to be with such a cast of folks. So I'm really looking forward to playing with everybody.
Fantastic. Let's do CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. I always do CATS in order to establish some basic expectations for what we're going to be doing today, tomorrow, and Halloween Day as well. So let's talk about the concept. First, the game, Cthulhu Dark. Cthulhu Dark is an extremely rules-light Cthulhu investigation game created by Graham Walmsley. It is a very spare rule set. You could probably fit the rules on an index card if you tried. It is, I like it though, because its lightness creates a lot of space for like really interesting role play, and a lot of space to sort of I don't know, like to just kind of you'll see it's a simple rule set that just sort of moves you from A to B to C. And for these types of modules where like there is an A to B to C sort of investigation, it works great, and it has a nice flow to it, and you're always kind of moving forward, which is what I love about Cthulhu Dark. We based Trophy in part on Cthulhu Dark, so that should tell you a little bit about how much we like it. The Secret of Castronegro, I'm not going to say too much about, except that it was originally published in the 80s in a book called The Cthulhu Companion. I don't think it's available in print anymore. I'm not even sure you can buy the PDF anymore. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. It is, relatively speaking, compared to other COC modules, pretty unknown. It has gained a new life because of Tom and I and Fear of a Black Dragon, but prior to that, it was pretty well unknown. I really love it though, because it takes the whole Cthulhu mythos, the classic Cthulhu mythos investigation stuff, and transplants it into this different setting of New Mexico, rural New Mexico. And so it's a big influence on me, a big influence on my game design and my creativity as well. So just a big fan. AIM. The aim of today's session is to make our characters, very briefly introduce them, and we're going to keep a lot of it secret, and then just get going. This game is not the kind of game where we would expect a lot of interpersonal drama. It is a very like investigation focused game. So as long as you're focused on your investigation, the rest of it will happen. The story will happen. So let that be your goal. Each of the characters is going to have kind of their own reason for being in Castronegro. And so your aim as a player is to pursue that reason, but also at a time of your choosing, sort of share with the other players like what you're there to do and what you know, and hopefully you'll all eventually begin to pull things together for yourselves in terms of what's going on, the bigger mystery. I have a personal aim as the keeper, which is to give you one of the most memorable role-playing experiences of your life. That is my goal. If I don't accomplish that, I will have failed. So my expectation is we're going to leave this 3 days and you will remember your time in Castronegro for a long time. Tone. It's pretty dark, I would say. It is very... it's a little gritty. It has a lot of menace. It has a lot of supernatural strangeness. It has quite a lot of, it is very Lovecraftian, but it's also got lots of like just straight up kind of 1970s style horror shit going on. And so if that sounds good to you, that's kind of what we'll be doing. And subject matter, I can't think of anything in particular to call out. It's all the typical sorts of Lovecraftian horror stuff that you can expect in something like this. But I will say that we will have safety tools on the table. We'll have the X card, which you all know what that means in this context. We'll have the open door policy. You also know what that means in this context. And we're going to do roaming lines and veils. We're not going to establish any lines and veils in the beginning, but if we anticipate something is going to happen that we'd like to line or veil, then we'll do it then. Are there any questions about cats or anything up to this point? Okay. Then we are going to make our characters. Now, there are some limitations on character creation. Character creation is pretty wide open in this game. All you have to think of is a name and an occupation. That's literally it. Like once you've done those two things, your character's made. You might also think about what they look like and things like that. But in this particular scenario, I need characters of 4 specific types. And within your chosen type, you can make a different occupation or whatever you want to do. But these are the 4 broad things that I require for creating characters. One of you must be a native of the area, not Castronegro, but nearby Silver City, who got involved with a troubled local. That's one thing. That occupation can be really wide open. That could be anything, right? Because you're just a local. One of you must be an academic or otherwise connected to the University of New Mexico. One of you must be from Boston, investigating the disappearance of a Bostonian in the area. And one of you must be a paranormal researcher of some sort. Those are the 4 character requirements. And we are now going to pause the recording so that we can talk as a play group and make characters. And then we'll come back and tell you what we came up with. Okay, we have our characters. And currently as players, you don't know what each of the characters is there to do. But we're going to just meet them at a really basic level. Essentially just name, their occupation, and a brief physical description, if you wish. So we're going to go in reverse order. Let's start with Gabriel and James Harrow.
I picked a picture yet, but James Harrow is an art and psychology student. I'm thinking that he's very into these newer works of Carl Jung and these ideas of symbolism and the collective unconscious.
The archetypes.
And so is archetypes. And is still kind of figuring out, maybe it's in his first year of college, and I don't know what college that would be nearby,
It's it has to be the University of New Mexico.
University.
So,
Oh, right.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So very interested in just local studies of art history, symbolism. Been doing a lot of spending a lot of time pouring through old books, and yeah, it feels like it's very, very cutting edge. Kind of some of these new theories of psychology and symbolism. And that's all I got so far.
I love it.
Mm.
So, based off everything you've told me so far, I'm going to give you 2 dice on your initial roll, your initial investigation roll. This is a good little chance to kind of learn the rules of the game really quickly. So, basically, whenever you are investigating, you get 1 die if what you're doing is within human capabilities. So, you almost always get 1 die. You get another die if it's within your occupation's expertise. You could do an insight die as well, but we're not going to do that for this initial roll. But I'm going to give you 2 dice based off what you've described to see how much you learn about your investigation prior to game start. So go ahead, let's roll on the die roller and see what you get.
Risk 2.
On the die roller, yeah, it's like it would be two regular dice.
I don't
A
know if
3.
lowest. Yeah. Okay.
High is 3, so not like a whole lot, but not too bad. Middle sort of information.
Good.
Let's go meet our next character, who is Millicent Reed. Jack, tell us about Millicent.
Millicent Reed, pronouns are she, her. Her occupation is an occultist / medium. And I imagine she is sort of this like Paula Negri type, very worldly, very vampy, probably a little bit too done up for small town Mexico. She's got the sort of classic 1920s sort of linear brows and dark lips and dark hair. Her clothes are sort of like from all over the world. She's got like a Mexican pleasant blouse, but like a Eastern European skirt and jewelry from the Orient. She's very, very cosmopolitan and worldly.
Intriguing. I'm going to give you... You get 1 die. The numbers of dice will make sense when you see what you've learned. So, and how you had to learn it. So
That's a 2.
A 2. Not the greatest amount of information for Millicent. That's okay. Maybe she's just drinking tequila and hanging out in Silver City. So let's click over to our next character, who is Father Samuel Scrivener. Alex.
Yeah, Father Samuel Scrivener, he, him pronouns is, as the title it says, he is a Catholic priest from St. Vincent's Church in Silver City. He's a very tall guy, like one of those like hit a growth spurt at like 13 and just is not in, he's like large but not in the like the muscular way, just in that like he's got like that wide stocky kind of like just big for his boots kind of physicality, very kind of like rectangular squarish face, and yeah, I mean, like he's in his like late 30s early 40s, kind of has like this like whole unremarkable aspect to him that's just like the world is passing this man by and no one really pays attention to it.
Nice. You get 2 dice.
And this is, we're doing risk roll on the trophy roller.
Just cool. Do 2 light on the trophy roller.
5.
Okay, that's like the best you can get, so that's great. Let's go finally to Norbert Church.
Hey there, Norbert Church, he, him pronouns. Norbert is a ex-soldier, having signed up with the 104th Volunteer Infantry in World War I, and was the unfortunate victim of a shell blast that took away most of his lower jaw and part of the left side of his face. Of course, he had facial reconstruction surgery, but the best of that they could do at the time left him with a hideous scarred visage. So he wears a wax prosthetic most of the time, making him even more extra creepy. He in his ex-soldiering, he's turned to a life of dock work because it's the only profession that he can find that he's not completely the focus of attention and being pointed and laughed at and made fun of.
I'm going to give you 1 die.
Okay. Three.
Die rolls are made. Our story starts on a bus ride from Silver City, New Mexico to a little town 40 miles north called Castronegro. Each of you have your own reasons for going to Castronegro, which you're going to learn momentarily. And each of you have learned some things in Silver City that are of interest to you and may eventually be of interest to your new companions. At the start of the story, you all don't know each other. You may have politely nodded at each other as you sat down on the bus, but that's the extent of your knowledge of each other. And so we are going to take a 15-minute break. I am going to privately share on Discord each of the things that you have learned, which you can then read and decide how you're going to share it, or if you share it at all. And then we will return and begin the Secret of Castronegro. So let's take our break. It's Tuesday morning. The bus from Silver City to Castronegro leaves on Tuesday morning, and only on Tuesday morning. It's 40 miles north of Silver City. Relatively short bus ride. Cars are not that common at this time, and so this bus is one of the rare ways that you can make it to Castronegro. And you know that the bus comes back Wednesday morning. You are the only 4 passengers on the bus. You're all sitting in different parts of the bus. The bus driver, a man named Jorge, heavy-set, wearing a white tank top. He occasionally looks into the rearview mirror at you just to make sure you're enjoying your 40-minute-ish ride to Castronegro. The sun is already quite high in the sky. Let's just go around, and I would like for everybody to just give me a little tiny vignette of what they look like, what they're doing to pass the time on the bus ride, and then we'll have the scene. Whoever wants to go first, please do.
I think we find Millicent Reed. She is, as I mentioned before, very sort of vampish in her appearance, jet black hair, these crimson painted lips, straight linear brows of the 20s. She has a hand-rolled cigarette in her mouth, and she's just sort of puffing on it and looking out the window, watching the desert go by. She's occasionally looking down at a book that she's been flipping through periodically. Looks to be some kind of journal that she's been writing in, and writing in it as things come to her. She's been occasionally glancing over at the other passengers, specifically giving certain interested eyes towards Father Samuel, who I imagine is probably seated somewhere adjacent to her. But she occasionally looks at him, kind of giving a bit of a smirk, and I think she doesn't think that he notices her, which is fine. But she goes back to the sort of routine of writing in the journal, thinking about it, sighing listlessly, looking at the desert, wash, rinse, and repeat.
Father Samuel is seated. He's not actually dressed too much like a priest, but definitely still has like the white collar that is visible underneath of it, black overcoat. He's seated kind of like glancing out the window every so often, but most of his attention it looks down to Similarly to Millicent, a journal he has in front of him. It's actually a small notebook where he is just doing simple sketchings with his pencil. We see him just like with some very, amateur but still pretty decently expressive cross hatching, is drawing like eyes, brow, irises, dark hair, cheekbones, facial features. Occasionally just eyes up, looks out the window as the desert's passing by. Sometimes just kind of like glances around the bus, never when Millicent's looking at him. Just kind of glances at people just idly and just goes back to his little sketches.
James is also looking at a book most of the time. He can't seem to get comfortable. He's a little too tall for the seat, kind of terrible posture, kind of leaning over this book. When there's a bump, it'll kind of jar him, and then he'll kind of sit back up and try to adjust a different way. Looks like a pretty hefty book, probably really small print. It's almost squinting, like maybe he needs glasses, but he doesn't have them. And occasionally he'll take out a piece of paper and try to write some notes, and there's a bump and breaks the paper. Out of frustration, starts over, then the pen won't write, and then it kind of cuts. He's just having a hard time, but he's trying to make the best of it. And I think shuffling papers, looking at a letter, folding it up, looking back at the book, looking to see if we're there yet, just wants this ride to be over. Not paying much attention to the others.
I think Norbert probably, although he's trying to be as nondescript as possible, stands out a bit like a sore thumb. He's wearing battered old work boots and a disheveled looking navy pea coat with the collar turned way up for the heat of New Mexico, battered fedora on his head, pulled down as far as it can. His wax prosthetic mask covers most of the lower half of his face, his nose, and is held on by wire-rimmed spectacles. And you can tell that he's not used to being in this climate. The skin of his face has a bit of a tan already, so the wax prosthetic is mismatched to the skin tone. And if anyone spends any time looking over, he's sort of huddled in his seat and folding and refolding an old photograph.
The driver occasionally looking in the rearview mirror, maybe a little lasciviously at Millicent, but then trying to look really proper whenever he catches Father Samuel's gaze. Pays no particular attention to James. And of course, he looks at Norbert. You're certainly not the first casualty of the war that he's encountered. Many, many people suffered in the war. But he's human and he's looking, but trying to be as polite as possible about it. The scene is yours.
I think maybe if Gabriel, you're cool with it, maybe in one of those mentioned bumps, James's pencil like snaps just from the break of the pressure, and drops, clatters to the floor, rolls on the bus aisle, and rolls into Father Samuel's shoe, and glances down, and maybe you're seated a couple back from me, and goes, "Oh, I have a spare pencil. Would you like one?"
Oh, that's very kind of you, sir. Yeah, I thought I had an extra, but I actually could use a spare one if that's no trouble.
No trouble at all. Here, he pulls one out from his coat and offers it to you. Glances down at your book and just nods politely and just says, awkwardly, then realizes he's just standing in the aisle of the bus, and I think there's another bump, and he sits down into to the chair in front of you, and just says, yeah, no trouble at all. So hot day, isn't it?
Yes, I wasn't sure. You see, James has sort of a little bit of a shabby jacket. Probably also too hot for the weather. Didn't know how to dress either, but hopefully not too much longer here. I just try to get a little bit further into some of my studies from the university. Just hoping to do some research. Are you also going to Castronegro?
Indeed, I am. Indeed,
Yeah.
University, New Mexico. Do you mind if I ask what you study?
Oh, well, I'm still combining studies. Not sure, but definitely a good friend of mine, a good professor, a psychology professor. Psychology is my main studies, but I'm interested in art as well and history. I hear it's a historical town.
Yes, I admit I'm actually not terribly familiar with Castronegro. I'm familiar with it in the sense that I've lived, well, 40 miles away from it for my entire life now, but this will be my first time going there as well. Psychology, I'm not too up to date, as it were, on the modern sciences, but I believe that is the rather popular affair that's out of Berlin, I think. No, am I wrong?
All the Viennese
Berlin.
watchers howling.
Yeah. Oh, Viennese.
in despair.
Yeah.
I think actually Millicent would pipe in and say, Vienna, actually.
Vienna.
Nice.
Thank you. He kind of like nods at you. Vienna. Apologies.
It must get rather hot under the collar, especially out here in the desert.
Well, certainly. He like kind of like pulls out those like his overcoat a little bit. It's just, I mean, admittedly, I don't get out much, and foolishly did not consider how hot the desert would get so close to home.
Funny that you've been here so long and you don't know the history of it.
Well, I know about Castronegro. Again, I mean, yes, my knowledge of the neighboring communities is lacking. Once you get beyond a certain mileage from Silver City, everything just tends to become a desert and far away. But the world is always getting smaller, but we've yet to have that pushed upon us yet. So Silver City has remained my little bubble of relatively placid ignorance, I admit.
Interesting. A little fun fact that you might be interested in knowing. In 1728, during the Spanish Inquisition, I'm sure you're familiar with that, being a Catholic priest and all, witches came to Castronegro.
Witches, yes.
Do you believe in the black arts?
I believe that there are practitioners who dabble in I cannot help. I apologize. I cannot help but feel like I'm being somewhat grilled at the moment. Yes,
Grilled the Inquisition.
Yes. Yes. In a manner of speaking, I do believe in. I believe in the concepts of the black arts. Possibly, I've never personally experienced anything. I believe that it is mostly the artifice of men who kind of construct what we call black magic. The little reading I've admittedly done on the subject is I've gotten the impression that most of the modern interpretations of it stem from new age people and not actual real cultural traditions, more people who decided that they had some sort of idea as to what it really was. But I mean, who am I to speak about a group establishing truth? After all, the Catholic Church is not innocent, and I admit this completely.
Oh, Padre, I must
Please,
say,
no, that's not all. That's fine.
What is fine?
You don't need to call me father. It's all right.
Perhaps I like calling you father.
Then do not allow me to All right, fair enough.
Well, either way, the point being is that magic has existed for centuries even before your god and your devil were created. Just because this new age phenomena doesn't agree with your sensibilities doesn't mean it doesn't exist. In fact, it's much older than any of us.
Well, I mean, nothing is older than the Almighty. Nothing came before God.
She just sort of smiles and takes a cigarette and puts it in her mouth.
But he like looks over at like James and glances in the back towards Norbert and just says, but I do not think that a theological debate is necessarily the travel entertainment our fellow passengers were looking forward to. I apologize. I am prone to bouts of anxiety, especially on automobiles such as this. I've yet to become accustomed with the times.
The bus driver looks in the rearview mirror at you, Norbert, and says, "Are you comfortable, sir?"
As comfortable as one can be. Thank you for your concern, sir.
Certainly, and thank you for your service.
It is no matter. Thank you.
Well, we'll be in Castronegro pretty soon, he says to everyone. Unusual to have so many people heading up. Normally, I'm lucky to have one, maybe two passengers. But now I've got, my goodness, whole four. You're really giving me a reason to have this job. I guess they'll keep me doing it for a little while longer yet.
I was curious. Jose, was it? Yes.
Jorge,
I apologize. Jorge, I was going to ask if you are the bus driver for this line, if there was no one else who did it.
No one else does it. It's, to be perfectly honest, they probably should have closed this line down a long time ago. People in Castronegro are not exactly the type of people who go out and about, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I almost never have anybody on the return trip.
Surely then at least you must take some enjoyment in the drive itself for you to be doing this back and forth so frequently.
Yeah, well, I like to look out at the landscape. There's something about the flatness of it, the emptiness of it, that makes me feel, well, just reminds me that we're all just one little tiny speck of sand in the grand universe of the desert or something. I don't know.
It's quite existential of you, isn't it, Mr. Harrow? Was it?
Yes, quite the bus full of scholars. It seems like.
I am no scholar, I admit, just a hobbyist reader of certain texts that catch my fancy.
So you all don't know each other?
Perhaps we're just starting to introduces himself to the others just to kind of ease the awkwardness a little bit. James Harrow, pleasure to share the ride with you all.
Samuel Scrivener, father, if you desire. A pleasure.
Millicent Reed.
Oh,
I'm sorry?
Pardon me, madam. Norbert.
No.
Church from Boston.
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 Wow. You've come quite a long way to our little corner of New Mexico. This is, are you traveling here on some sort of business? Do you have family in Castronegro, any of you?
A dear friend.
Well, isn't that just wonderful? And might I also echo Mr. Church, was it, as our bus driver here said, thank you, sir, for your service. I had an uncle who served in the Great War, and unfortunately he is with God now, but truly thank you for all that you've done on the other side.
Well, of the other side. I'm Millicent Reed. I am a medium and occultist, and she pulls out like a little golden Art Deco style like wallet and opens it up and starts to hand Father Samuel a very nicely made with sort of gold deboss on it business card essentially. It has her name on it and says just medium.
An occultist. Medium.
Yes.
Crystal ball, fortune cards.
I've employed both, but it's really about the person, not so much the tools.
Duly noted. Well, what then brings the rest of you to Castronegro? Jorge, I assume you're a local.
No, not a local. Though I do have a place I stay whenever I make the weekly trip.
What do you do when you're in Castronegro to pass the time?
Do you ask that to Jorge?
Yes.
He says, "Well, let's just say I have a female friend who I engage in perfectly normal, non-sinful, completely righteous relations with. Just a good friend."
Separate beds then.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm hoping to meet up with a good friend here as well, though. Gosh, how to follow up with that? My professor was I've not heard from him. He was mentioning some research he was doing in Castronegro, and so I'm hoping to catch up with him and see what he's learned. It must just be the bus ride is so infrequent. Maybe that's why he hasn't ridden. So I suppose we don't get many travelers out this way. A bit isolated. I'm sure he's fine.
Yes, I was just remarking here out the window that even though we are supposedly so close to Castronegro, the landscape gives no hint to its approach. It is just endless desert for all around us. Yes, quite remote indeed.
So used to being in cities, it's Millicent just sort of looks out of the window again, staring at the just sort of horizon, the sort of coppery land with the blue sky. It's also straight, so horizontal.
That is
so barren.
That is the desert. I myself am I'm from Silver City nearby, and even there, you look out beyond the bounds of your immediate environment, and you just see nothing but flat horizon, stone bluffs, beautiful works of the Almighty. But it is just truly desolate. Not in a way that I mean to imply that I don't like it. I do. That's why I live here.
Jorge says, "All right, here we are." And indeed, you come around a little bend into Castronegro. I've shared a link in the chat of a Google drawing that has a map of the town, or at least the relevant portions for now. And he slows down quite a lot. And he's coming up Vallela Pereira Street, which you'll see there on the map. He's slowed down quite a lot, and he's pointing out things. He says, over there's a chapel that might be of interest to you, Father. And he, kind of keeps going down. He gets to the corner of Vallela Pereira Street and Diaz Avenue, and he says, over there on the corner, there's a private club, the Changeling. Private club. People get together and just socialize, and definitely don't engage in any kind of activities that are against the law because of prohibition. And
like a book club,
Like a
like after
Mason's
hours,
lodge.
perhaps.
he says, book
The
club,
lawn.
sure. Yeah, just and then he kind of looks at Millicent in the mirror. He says, just when you go to the changeling, just make sure you speak easily.
Of course.
And a book club. Yes, I'm sure they get up to that sort of thing. And he kind of pulls around. He comes down. He says, they've got a library, actually, here in town, believe it or not, despite the fact that it's pretty small. Fewer than 500 residents, I think, at last count. And that includes all the people out on the ranches and stuff. So, yeah. And here is... And he kind of stops at the hotel, the Herrera Hotel. He says, unless you have friends in town, this is probably where you're going to want to get a room. It's only $2 a night, and that includes meals. It's not a bad deal, really.
I'm sorry. Just did my eyes deceive me, or was the street we came in on Villela Pereira Street?
Oh, yeah, Villela Pereira. Yep. Named after some folks who live in town. I mean, most people in Castronegro, you're either a Villela Pereira or you're a Diaz. That's kind of how it goes around here.
I see.
Although there are some Herreras and Garcias as well.
I see. Thank you. Does anyone need require any assistance with their luggage? I'd be more than happy to lend my aid.
Yes, Father, that would be so appreciated. Thank you so much. And Millicent just sort of scuttles off the bus with a cigarette in her mouth, waiting beside the little the trunk of the bus for it to unload.
Yeah, whenever we next see Father Samuel in this scene, he will just be kind of laden with both his and Millicent's luggage, kind of.
Doing the Lord's work, really.
Norbert will easily help Father pick up any heavy cases. He's a dock worker these days and happy to oblige.
Thank you most kindly, Mr. Church. I appreciate it.
Jorge parks the bus and gets out with you, and he says, okay, well, I head back around this time tomorrow morning. I will wait an extra 10 or 15 minutes just to make sure none of you are going to come back. But if you don't come back with me tomorrow, you're going to have to hitch a ride back to Silver City or wait a week. So, and he says, I'm going to go find my friend and engage in some perfectly innocent behavior. You all enjoy your stay in lovely Castronegro. And
enjoy your Bible study.
He totters off towards the changeling.
Before you go, if I might ask you a question.
Sure, yeah.
I'll take up my photo and show him the folded over picture of David to see if he recognizes.
Was this man one of your passengers recently?
Let's do the investigation roll. Let's read about it. When you investigate something, roll 1 die if what you're doing is within human capabilities, and 1 die if it's within your occupation's expertise. I'm not sure that what you're doing is within your occupational expertise, so just roll a single light die.
Unless intimidation counts.
So I don't think it's that kind of situation.
Okay. 3.
3. He says, yeah, he says, and he's kind of looking at the picture, and I'm looking at my notes. He says, oh, yeah. Yeah, I have seen this guy. Now, it's important to know that right now it's like early October, the first week of October. He says, "Yeah, I've given him a ride a couple of times, a few weeks back, I guess, or over the last few weeks. I can't quite remember the last time I saw him. I think he was here. I think he was here looking into. He said he was like an informal student of anthropology, I think is the exact phrase he used. He a friend of yours?"
Yes, that's right. A particular friend.
He says, "Oh, yeah. Well, I know he was." And he says, uh, "If I remember correctly, I think he was interested in some of the sort of the ruins that are outside of town. There's a couple of like strange, like ancient, crumbled ruins from back in ancient times that I think he was looking at or wanting to look at. I don't really know, but I haven't seen him in a couple weeks."
How would I be able to get better directions to these ruins?
I'm fairly certain that you probably, I don't know, you could maybe talk to the guy who runs the hotel. He seems to know a lot about stuff going on around here. His name's Juan Herrera. Nice guy.
And do you remember if this man mentioned going to the chapel to see Father Alfonso?
Oh, no, I wasn't. I'm not sure. I don't know anything about that. And
Thank you. I appreciate the help.
he staggers off. And so at this point, let's go around the table and figure out what everyone's interested in doing. Father Samuel, you have your leads that are known to you, and I think the expectation is you're all going to go check into the hotel and set your bags down. But in any case, what's your next move, Father Samuel?
The hotel, I think, is the best bet. In addition to just getting my room situated, probably asking the hotel staff some basic questions about the town. That might be a good angle to start with.
Sounds good. What about you, James Harrow?
Definitely looking at the library to see if the professor would have been there. Seems likely.
Yeah, sounds good. Are you going to check in the hotel first, or are you going to go straight over to the library?
I'll go to the hotel as well.
Yeah. Millicent?
Quick question. What is this above this little small, is it the tomb?
That is what on the map. Yeah, it says the
Yeah.
tomb. Yeah.
What did it look like on the outside? Did it look like, I mean, was there any signage, or does it?
You can wander
Or
over
is it
there
like
and
an-
look.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll go check that out first.
You're going to go over there first before the hotel?
Oh no, I'll go into the hotel first, then
Okay.
set my bags down, and then head over there.
Sounds good. Norbert, hotel or something else?
Hotel. Go to see Juan.
So you all kind of go into the hotel with your bags, and it's an old adobe building, the Herrera Hotel, 2 stories. It looks like it's at least 100 years old. The first story where you're at has a sort of simple lounge, a little dining area. There's a little like kind of a desk office area that people can use if they wish. You can smell a kitchen in the rear, and this is probably also where Mr. Herrera stays. The rooms for the guests are upstairs. Mr. Herrera actually is there to greet you. He's quite tall, blonde hair. Looks like he's about his early 30s. Blue eyes, big blue eyes. As you're going into the hotel, let's paint the scene, everyone. What small detail do you notice that makes you think they don't get many guests at the Herrera Hotel?
There's like one of those little guest books that you sign on your way out, but the last signature there is several weeks, if not years old.
I'm going to say there is a staining from the sun around the collection of keys at the front desk to show that they're rarely taken off their hooks.
The kitchen and like small little dining nook, I imagine, is like they don't have it gussied up for guests. This is the kind of place where whatever's being cooked right now, they're cooking for themselves, and they're probably just going to eat sitting around on like a break. But now they're very quickly like getting like a tablecloth on and just making sure it's ready.
I think there's a linen cart that looks very neatly folded, but piled high, like this linens have not been taken off in a long time. There's been no need to make up any beds or anything.
As the first person of you comes in, Juan Herrera perks up and says, well, welcome to the Herrera Hotel. And then when the second of you comes in, his eyes get wider. Welcome. And the third, even wider upon the third. My goodness, what a we're just practically just overflowing with and he's moving papers around trying to find check-in registers with things to do here and customers. Oh my goodness. But hello. Do you all need rooms? Of course you do. Welcome to the Herrera Hotel, where we rent rooms for people to stay for the night, even.
There's a hefty thunk as Father Samuel like sets down a bunch of the baggage he's carrying.
Oh my goodness, Father.
Perspiring.
My goodness, imagine that. A priest here in my hotel. And madam, hello. And he sees to James, and he has a little startled moment with Norbert, which you're probably used to, Norbert. And he says, and he makes a guess. He puts two and two together, and he says, thank you for your service. And says, so, let me help you with your bags here. Sorry, I don't have more people here to help you. How many rooms are you all going to need? Are you all here on some kind of tour or geological survey or
3 rooms, I think. And then she looks over at Father Samuel, unless you want to share a room.
No, 3 rooms is perfectly all right. We just met on the bus over. We are all separate travelers into your town.
Why not?
Yeah.
4 rooms.
Why only 3?
4 rooms. 4 rooms. I meant 4. I meant 4.
He says 4 rooms. My goodness. And he says, my goodness. Well, the first thing you'll need to do is forms. Yes, that's right. Here, you want to fill out this form here. Here you go, sir, madam. And and he's kind of he's kind of fussing about. He says, well, the fee is $2 per night. That includes 1 meal, which will be served at 5 o'clock this evening, which is in just a few hours. So you want to make sure you're here for that. We're having skirt steak tonight. Skirt steak, fried with peppers and onions and served with corn tortillas. It's going to be delicious. I have no doubt.
That sounds delightful. Yes.
I don't mean to be a pain, Mr. Herrera, but I am a vegetarian. Will there be some kind of vegetarian option? Possibly
A vegetarian? What does that?
Yes, I don't eat meat.
You don't eat meat. You only
No.
eat vegetables. How interesting.
Yes, and fish
yes.
and eggs.
Oh, splendid. Yes. We are plumb out of fish, but I'm sure we can figure something out for you. That we'd be very, very happy to accommodate you, Ms. And he looks at the paper. Ms. Reed, is it?
Yes.
Yes, that's very nice. And he's
And
thank you.
it's not much trouble. A soup, or perhaps porridge for me.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. So many dietary requirements and needs. All right then. So, yes, I will get your bags up to your rooms. Here are your keys. And he kind of gives you your keys. And he says, please do whatever you want. You're our guests. You can go and rest after your no doubt exhausting travels here to Castronegro, or if you want to go do some sightseeing, that's also something you might be interested in doing as well. Is there anything that I can help you with in particular?
I actually had. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on, Mr. Church.
No, please, madam.
Thank you. I did have a question. I saw a small building on the way in on the bus called the. I think it was called the Tomb.
Oh yes, the tomb. A little shop where they sell. How to describe it? Oddities, rarities, antiquities.
Oh, very good. Thank you. As you were, Mr. Church. I'm sorry.
Very kind of you, madam. If you happen to have a map of the town, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yes. Well, I don't think I do, but I'm happy to point you in any direction you'd like. I mean, there aren't many things to see in town,
Norbert
really.
will reach across the desk, pull a piece of paper, turn it over, put a pencil on top of it.
Perhaps you could be kind enough to draw one.
Oh, of course. What sorts of landmarks are you interested in, sir?
The chapel and the ruins outside of town.
Oh.
Ruins?
Well, the desert filled with such things, ancient Native American sites and that sort of thing. We have quite a history here in Castronegro. Many interesting things happened, historically speaking.
Fascinating. I had no idea.
Oh yes, the Casa de Diaz. You might have noticed it. Big mansion on the hill just outside of town. That's been here since, I think the 1600s or something. The conquistadors.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, wow. Is there anyone currently living there?
Oh well, I haven't been up there in so long. I couldn't say. Well,
please add it to the map.
He does. If there's nothing else,
no, I would just like to get up to my room. I'm feeling a little fatigued after my day of travel. The dinner sounds lovely, Mr. Herrera.
Ah, yes, good. It's going to be wonderful. Lupe does a wonderful job with the skirt steak. She's going to be a little flummoxed by the idea of no meat, but I'm sure she'll manage. And Norbert, I would like for you to roll a single die investigation roll to see how good the map is. 5, very good. He points out in particular a spot, or he draws one little spot outside of town to the southwest, which he just notes as the obelisk. So, after the nervous excitement of Juan Herrera, where is everybody headed now at this point? You can all go up to your rooms if you wish and settle in, or you can head out to town, however you want to do. Father Samuel?
Yeah, Father Samuel just definitely, his first priority is get up to the room, get settled in the room, and then think from there.
Yeah. As you go upstairs, Father Samuel, as you go upstairs to the second floor, you have the distinct feeling that something is watching you. You feel watched. I mean, there's just a hallway, sort of U-shaped hallway with rug runner and doors and things, but what is it that makes you feel that way? Why do you feel that way?
It's like, I think there's a creak of a floorboard from down the hall. That sounds like someone was just moving there, and then there's just that cold perspiration on the back of his neck, that gut churning anxiety of when you're under the eyes of a mentor or some sort of superior, and you can just feel that gaze upon you that strikes him very suddenly.
I'm going to ask you to make an insight roll. Roll your insight die, which on our die roller is just dark die. And if it's higher than your current insight, you increase your insight by 1.
Fantastic. 2.
It is just higher than your current insight. Please tell me, how are you feeling? Like, apart from what you've already told me. It goes deeper than that, I think. Think on it. Millicent Reed, what are you doing right now?
I think similarly, going up to her room, sort of freshening up. She's a little bit sweaty, so she's probably reapplying some of her makeup, but getting ready to set out and look about the town.
Millicent, your room has no windows. An odd feature, I would say. Just a completely closed up room.
I
How
think
does that make you
noticing
feel?
this, I think noticing this, you would immediately go down to see Mr. Herrera to try to get a room switch.
He says, "Oh, Ms. Reed, is everything to your satisfaction upstairs?"
Unfortunately, not. There's no windows in my room. I was hoping to get some sort
Oh
of
yes,
view.
it's best that way, I think.
Uh, I beg to differ. I would like to switch a room to something with a view, if it's possible.
Well,
He
Ms. Reed,
leaned.
I don't mind trading if my room has windows. I've not seen it yet, but I don't mind a lack of windows. It actually helps me focus and I focus on my reading.
He leans in to you and says, "It really is better without windows."
See. And I think in her mind, she sort of takes that as it being a small town and her being not only a woman, but also more of a kind of a more urban, more eclectic look to her. I think she gets the hint a bit, or at least a hint, and says, "No, Mr. Harrow. I think that I'll stick with the room that I have. Thank you, Mr. Herrera."
Though the rooms with windows have a lovely view. Enjoy your stay, Mr. Harrow. Mr. Harrow, where do you go?
While we're talking to Juan again, actually, I would just ask, like, are there other guests here? My professor may have come through here in the last few weeks, and I've been trying to track him down. Professor Godfrey,
Oh,
any chance?
mm, make a make an investigation roll with 1 die.
6.
Mm. Now 6 is an interesting result because you get maximum information plus you might see something that gives you a glimpse into the beyond, or you might learn something that gives you a bit of a glimpse into the beyond. After Miss Reed is gone and Norbert's toddled off and Father Samuel's already upstairs and it's just you and Juan, he says, what did you say his name was again, your friend?
Was Professor Godfrey? William Godfrey.
Godfrey, yes. Yes, we were supposed to have Mr. Godfrey staying with us. Someone called ahead for him. That would have been a few weeks ago, I guess, if I recall correctly. And he's kind of going through his paperwork. You see a lot of blank pages as he flips through his little, register. He says, here we are. So, yes, he was supposed to stay here a few weeks back, early September, or no, I guess it'd be mid-September. Oh goodness, I get my dates all mixed up. But he never showed. I was really disappointed, though. It was just as well because it freed up the room for all the other people who wanted a room that night. And he says, "Oh, remind me, Mr. Harrow, do you have special dietary requirements?"
No. Of course. Do you serve coffee here, though? Do you have coffee in the mornings or even evenings?
Yes,
then I'll be
coffee.
fine.
Coffee would be very good indeed. Keeps you awake, and sometimes wakefulness is very helpful. So meat then is not a problem for you?
No, not particularly.
Do you have what you would describe as a adventurous palate?
Sometimes by necessity. I'm a student, you see, and I can't always be choosy. So sometimes it's just coffee for me. It's my meal when I just have to keep at the study. So when I've had good meals come my way, I'm not too picky. I don't turn them down. But there's no sense in wasting good food.
You should never let meat go to waste. That's what I say. Use every part of the pig. Am I right?
Sure, I wouldn't know too much myself, but any specialty of my professor did say I'm disappointed he didn't come out this way. He would go on different adventures in his studies and always tell me about Sorry?
Disappointing. Very disappointing.
It is. Well, he was so keen to visit this town. He would tell me about the local cuisines on some of his trips, and so steak. There must be ranches. Is there any particular way you cook meat out here?
Oh my goodness. I lost sight of myself for a moment there. How is your room, Mr. Harrow?
I've not been to see it yet.
Oh,
I was just hoping
let me help you then. Let me help you with your bags. Let me help you up to your room, Mr. Harrow. And he comes around and he takes up your bags. He says, No, Mr. Godfrey never showed up. Really unfortunate. We were so looking forward to having him with us that night. I hope he's well. I hope he's okay. I hope you're able to find him.
I'm sure he's fine. Maybe I will get to find something to tell him about after I visit this town. He has a way of getting a little bit absorbed in his studies, but I understand.
He takes you upstairs. You go clomping upstairs. And he says, Here's your room. Beautiful window view of the chapel.
What impressive.
Yes. Well, the Herrera Hotel's been here for over 100 years. My ancestors built it.
Perhaps when you have time, you have to tell me more about your family history. I will be trying to take notes. Seems like quite a town to explore, and then I saw you even have a library. So I will.
All right then, Mr. Harrow. Enjoy your stay.
Oh,
and he closes the door. Let's check in on. Well, Father Samuel, you were the first up, and you had that eerie feeling of being watched. How is it affecting you?
It is this. It's similar to how experiencing deja vu feels. It's this sensation of like a suddenly disorienting. He can like clearly perceive this hallway, his surroundings, and this feeling of being watched, and then like it's not a vision or a secondary sight, but it is this like clear, distinct, overlapping memory of like he's also the person watching. Like he feels like so distinctly like, oh, I can touch the memory of like being on the other side of a door, looking under the cracks, breathing heavily. But clearly that has never been a thing he's done. So it's this very disorienting kind of disassociation from reality for a brief moment before it passes.
Mr. Church, where do we find you right now?
I think Norbert would have dropped his bags off in his room, maybe freshened up. He's been melting under his heavy pea coat, fedora, and wax mask, so he would have freshened up as best he could. And then he would also want to go back downstairs and talk to the clerk, show him David's picture, see if he had any same recollections as the bus driver.
Millicent, where do we find you?
I think we see her in her room, and she's just sort of like patting herself with a cool, like a watered down hand towel. But I think that she's sort of just staring at the wall where the window should be, wondering what it is and why it is. And I think that, just to add a little bit more flavor, I think that the panels of the wall are that sort of like burl wood with that sort of like eye-like patterns in it. And so she's staring at it. It's almost as if something is staring back at her. And finally, there's this moment where she just sort of snaps out of this, and she starts to gather her things, gets her purse together, and she begins to go downstairs.
I quite like this. Make an insight roll.
Yeah.
The eyes in the walls.
And it's dark, right?
Yeah.
6.
Your insight goes up. What's the energy like in this place? How is this affecting you?
It's almost as if she locked eyes with something as she's looking at the wall where the window should be. And it's as if these sort of spiraling patterns are continuing to spiral and almost pull her deeper into whatever energy is here. The energy here isn't light, it's not dark, it's older than that, it's more ancient than that. It feels primordial.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. Everyone's had time to freshen up. Norbert, you're going back downstairs. You can't find Juan. You don't know where he's at. You do hear Lupe, though, in the back, chopping things. James, what's your first move here?
I think I would go to the library, hoping to just get a head start on some of these studies, see if it just seems unusual that there is one in such a small town. So.
Millicent, you headed to the tomb?
Yes.
Father Samuel?
I think once my bags are settled, I'm going to walk down and speak with the clerk again, back in the lobby.
He's nowhere to be found.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I will walk across the street then, go check out this chapel. I'm curious to see what kind of church it is,
Yeah.
what denomination it is. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. Norbert, you have your map at least. That's something.
If Norbert notices Father Samuel looking for the clerk, he would remark that he's been away for some time.
Oh.
And Father, do you know the local priest here, Father Alfonso?
I am not. No, I do not actually know anyone in Castronegro. I was hoping to cross the street just now and go. Do you know his name? Clearly, yes. What do you know of this Father Alfonso?
I confess I know nothing of him, but David, my particular friend, he made reference to the father, and I want to check with him to see if perhaps the father knows where David might be found.
Yes, well, I was just going to head over there. Would you care to accompany me then?
Yes, thank you, Father.
Of course, of course.
And with everybody on the board, we'll take a 5-minute break and pick up with these scenes. James Harrow, the library. The Castronegro Library is one of the few wooden buildings in town. It's actually relatively modern, perhaps 20 years old. 2 floors. The ground floor, as you enter, you see a desk, there's an index, some reading rooms. One room where the door is closed, marked private. The second floor, which you can look up to from the bottom floor, are just bookshelves filled with books. The librarian is kind of a very tall, lanky man. As he stands up from the desk, you get a good sense of his height. And his arms are like very gangly and long. The fingers reach just a little too low past down the side of his leg. But most striking of all are the vivid green eyes, which you can see from across the room. Eyes like jade. He lopes over to you and says, "Oh, welcome. We don't get many people here at the library. Is there something I can help you find?"
Suppose you get asked to reach the top shelves too.
Oh, yes. I am, yes, rather tall. Nothing so unusual here in Castronegro. They make us tall here.
Well, as a matter of fact, my professor was supposed to come here on a research trip. Perhaps he called ahead and talked to you, Professor Godfrey.
No, I don't think so. But what was he looking into? Maybe I can help show you to it. Or
He had his hobby projects, but he was mostly talked about folklore, and I was curious if you had any books on local folklore.
Yes,
Legends?
all sorts of things. We have a really, really interesting history actually here in Castronegro. Lots of we were the conquistadors founded the town, of course. It was called Agua Blanca back then. That's what they called it. And all sorts of folk traditions over the years. A normal sort of rural town in New Mexico, I suppose. You'll want to look here in this stack over here. And he takes you upstairs, showing you the stacks. And feel free to have a look. And what was your friend's name again?
Professor Godfrey, William Godfrey.
I shall keep an ear to the ground.
It's kind of you, sir. Thank you.
And he goes back downstairs. As he goes back downstairs, you'll note that he makes a point of walking over to that room that says private and checks the door to make sure it's locked, and then goes back to his desk. So it sounds like you're digging in for some research today.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. We'll come back and give you a roll on that in a moment. Let's check in on Millicent at the tomb. Not much of a thriving retail scene in Castronegro, but this is one such place. A bizarre little occult shop, cluttered with strange artifacts. In the window, in fact, alongside a statue of a Balinese temple guardian demon, is a sign which states in Gothic hand lettering, "The Tomb, Proprietor Filippo Diaz." I assume you go in?
Yeah. She definitely marvels at the Balinese demon, but she heads inside. Yeah.
It's just shelf after shelf of objects, statuettes, books, scrolls, all kinds of stuff. Really an impressive collection for a town with fewer than 600 people. This is the sort of thing you might find in, Los Angeles or New York City, right?
Mhm.
No sign of Filippo Diaz. You seem to be by yourself at the moment. What do you do?
She'll call out, "Hello, Mr. Diaz?"
There's no response.
And she'll shrug that off, and she'll start going through the aisles, looking at the different objects, seeing if she recognizes anything. But she's also, I mean, as you mentioned, this is a collection that's not something you would see in such a small town. I think that she's taking stock of that, and she's definitely on the lookout for really unique items here. Anything that feels like either particularly old or might speak to the sort of witchcraft history that she's heard about.
Given your occupation, I think you can get 2 dice out of that. Go ahead and roll a 2-die investigation roll.
3 and a 5.
All right, 5 is great. We'll come back to this in a moment. Norbert and Father Samuel. Let me give you the exterior of the chapel first, which is just across the street. There's a churchyard with a cemetery, headstones and stuff there in the cemetery. There's actually like a really interesting, structurally, it's a very interesting building because, well, it's all made of stone, which makes it very different from most of the adobe style buildings around here. And the bell tower seems to be made of a different type of stone than the rest of it, a darker material. So it's odd, architecturally speaking. You are on the exterior in the churchyard there. Well, that's not true. You can go in through the front of the church, or you can go over to a gate where the churchyard is. That's where the cemetery is. So they're kind of separate. It does look like there is a way from the church out to the churchyard, but from the exterior, you have to go in through that little gate. So, Father Samuel, what do you do?
Is there like a sign that declares anything about this church, like out front?
No, actually, there's not. But you can probably see enough telltale signs in the architecture and maybe something in the cemetery. I don't know, but like you can probably put 2 and 2 together. This is a Catholic church.
Okay, well, he will. Unless Norbert is walking around anywhere in particular, he's going to just head to the front doors of the church and just kind of tentatively step inside, see if anyone's in.
What about you, Norbert?
I think Norbert would follow. Norbert is on a mission to find his friend, and so is probably not going to spend a lot of time looking for any sort of strange signs or even architecture. It's not really his field of expertise at all.
As you get closer, you realize that the main structure of the chapel actually is adobe, but they've painted the exterior to make it look like stone, presumably to match the tower, which is definitely stone. It's odd. Inside, you have a very simple kind of like, sept area, a little meeting room. There's an altar at the front. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Looking around, how do we know that this church doesn't do a very brisk business on Sunday Mass?
Oh, dusty pews, just lots of, yeah.
I think the basin of holy water is rather low, almost devoid of any kind of holy water.
There's not one candle lit.
I was going to say something about candles, maybe even They don't even unlock both of the doors. Like they don't have to fully open the doors for people to come in. So you can just kind of get by with single file entrance.
As you step inside, Father Samuel, there's kind of like a switchback stairway behind you that goes up to the top of that tower. And then up ahead is the altar, and there's a couple of little transept areas. The one on the left goes out to the churchyard. No sign of anybody, but there is a back area where there's presumably an office of some sort. So who knows? Or maybe one of the little side transept areas might have an office where somebody is. Father Samuel, what do you do?
I spot that side passage, but he does while he's walking the aisle, just kind of like, oh, hello, is anyone in? Father Alfonso.
You hear somebody on the on one of the transepts back there. You hear someone holler back. Yes, just a moment.
Yeah,
An old man comes out. A bent old man with white stringy hair, bright green eyes. He sees you. Is your collar noticeable, Father Samuel?
Yes, I'd say so.
He says, hello, brother. Don't get many other fellow travelers out here in Castronegro. I'm Father Alonso Valera Pereira. How are you?
Father Samuel Scribner. I'm from St. Vincent de Paul's in neighboring Silver City.
Silver City. Wonderful.
Yes,
wonderful.
yes. I'm not here on any official church business. I am coming through your town and wanted to, see the local chapel. This is a beautiful structure, brother. This is we have a similar adobe structure at St. Vincent's, though I've noticed you've painted over yours.
Oh, yes. Well, something of a, how shall I say, reaching a middle place. We'll put it that way.
Oh, well,
the tower,
different communities have their aesthetic preferences. I understand.
The church was built around the bell tower.
Oh, the tower.
The other way around.
Fascinating. Yes, where are my manners? This is Mr. Norbert Church, a fellow traveler here to Castronegro, just recently acquainted.
Hello, sir. Fine last name.
Pleasure to meet you, Father. Thank you very much. I was hoping you might be able to assist me in my inquiries about a missing friend of mine. I found this envelope with your name and address on it.
Go ahead and make a single die roll, Norbert. Father Samuel, while they're having their conversation, what are you doing?
I don't want to interrupt, so I think Father Samuel does what a priest does best, which is relegate himself to the background, and is kind of like idly looking around the place, just kind of like keen, just like seeing. Like I've noticed that this place doesn't seem very, populous, but just kind of looking around, seeing if anything sticks out to me. That detail about the bell tower being here first is very peculiar, so I'm just kind of looking around the space, taking it in.
You know churches, I would say, so go ahead and roll 2 dice for your occupation.
That's a 2.
A 2. Do you want to risk insight to get a better result?
Oh, why not?
So I think let's read the rule, make sure we're doing it correctly. I think it's on the doing other things section. Oh, wait. I can't remember exactly how it works. If your insight roll higher, I'm pretty sure you can add your insight die now and re-roll the whole thing. I'm fairly certain that's how it works. Don't know why that information is not in the keeper, though. Trying again. Here we go. If an insight die was included in a roll and you aren't happy with the result, you may re-roll all of the dice. If you didn't include your insight die, you may add it and re-roll. So, and you can do this as often as you like. So, go ahead.
Well, let's see if I Let's see how this goes. Well, my insight goes up, but that's a 4 now.
Okay, so you got a 3 and a 4 on your non-insight dice, and your insight die got a 3.
Which is higher than my 2.
It is indeed. So if your if your insight die rolls higher than any other die.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So
You must
so
make an
okay.
insight roll.
So it is the
So
trophy rolls.
it did
Gotcha.
not. Yeah, it did
Gotcha.
not. And
goodness.
or any other die, but it is not higher than the other die. So you're okay. You get a 4. That's pretty good. Got some dice on the table. James Harrow, you're doing your research. I'm going to give you your roll eventually, but I'm assuming this is going to take a little bit of time. You're kind of moving from stack to stack, looking through different types of books. What specific kind of information are you looking for? That'll help me a little bit.
Well, I know that Professor Godfrey was, I didn't get the full picture, but he was interested in local folklore and how it interacted, with the church, so he had an interest in native mythology of the region. And some of our conversations involved some of these new theories about a collective unconscious and archetypes and the Jungian stuff. So I was curious to see if there were some of those local beliefs and symbolism. He had started to talk once about shape shifting and legends about those kind of things, and I thought that was very curious.
Yeah. And what was your die result?
Oh, I didn't roll yet.
Oh, you haven't rolled yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do the roll now and see what you're going to learn eventually. 2 dice is fine, since you're very much a research type character.
6.
6. You might glimpse something that gives you untoward information. I like this. This is good. As you're doing your research, the librarian, who his name is Ephraim Diaz, he calls up to you periodically, says, "Everything okay up there?"
Yes, thank you. Quite a collection you have for this size of a town. You get many other scholars, students?
Well, it's mostly just down to the fact that the town is so old. Over time, you just collect things, I suppose.
Very impressive. I appreciate you helping me sort through everything. There's so much to look at. I was expecting much less, to be honest. This is amazing.
I'm happy you're finding it to be fruitful for you. And he's sort of you see him take one book and just kind of casually push it on a shelf and cover it with other books as he's walking by, and then leaves you to it. Do you pull out that book in particular?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's odd.
It is
I
odd.
wonder if it was a personal interest of his or something else.
It's an interesting little ledger, actually. It's a listing of missing infants reported over the last 100 years in Castronegro and nearby towns. It's a gruesome list compiled from various sources, including quite a lot of hearsay, it would seem, according to your academic's eye. But it states that in recent years, the last couple of decades, some 200 infants has gone missing. And there have also been quite a lot of just presumed unreported disappearances of children, particularly from native populations in recent years. I want you to make the insight roll.
Also 6.
Your insight goes up. What are you thinking right now?
Just shocked that this is just sitting here on a shelf so casually. This is horrifying, and I'm just in disbelief that I've not heard about this, or this isn't better known, if this is true. Just the numbers are shocking to me.
I think you have this shocked look on your face, and Ephraim just is there, quite suddenly in front of you again. Is everything all right? You seem like you've seen something a little disturbing.
Oh, it's probably nothing. I think I'm in the wrong shelf here. I was looking, just curious about local records, the size of the population. Just wanted to have some of that background notes for my professor.
Right, of course. Come this way. And he takes you to another bookshelf. You'll get more information, but that's just the
Sure.
one little bit. Check back in with Miss Reed. Millicent, what'd you get on your die roll?
5.
5. A couple of interesting things, in fact. You said you were looking for unique objects, correct?
Yeah, things that might pertain to the alleged witchcraft history here.
One thing you find, whether it's of interest to you or not is unclear, but you see a collection of 6 weird little pagan statuettes. Each is around 6 inches tall, made of smooth greenish stone. Very beautifully rendered, and maybe when you look at them, you even get kind of a funny feeling. You see another odd statuette of a rat-like being standing on its hind legs. It's about a foot tall, made of baked red clay. One thing you'll notice as you're looking around, a surprising paucity of Native American artwork and antiquities. This is all stuff like from other parts of the world. Again, making this place a really like interesting find, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this is, sort of a kid in a candy store sort of situation.
You do see one book written with a name that stands out to you, or written by an author whose name stands out to you, Gabriela Herrera.
Yeah, she recognizes the last name at least. She'll pull it and start to go thumb through it.
On the subject of meat is the title of the book.
She winces when she sees the title page, and
Are you finding everything all right then?
Oh, my stars. Yes, sorry, you gave me quite a fright.
That is a rather interesting tome you have in your hands there. Written by one Gabriela Herrera, one of the town founders, actually. He takes the book from you and sets it back down. Very interesting subject matter, that one. My name is Filippo de Diaz. Sorry, Filippo Diaz. How can I help you today?
Yes.
He's very close. So close that his bright, vivid green eyes almost swallow you. And he looms because he's quite tall. His hair, greasy and matted and black.
Yeah. Bit of a student of the occult.
Are you?
Esoteric,
How
yes.
Splendid. Well, I'm so delighted you managed to find your way to our little shop out here in the middle of nowhere.
It's quite a find, but given your history, it does seem somewhat appropriate, doesn't it?
Do you know much about the history of this area, madam?
Only stories, alleged things, witchcraft, perhaps.
Yes, all sorts of terrible things, I'm sure.
Speaking on the subject of meat, I'm sure you may have heard about some recent rumblings of cattle mutilations that have been plaguing the area. Is that something that you're familiar with or have heard about?
At this point, he kind of swans back over to his little front desk area, puts his fingers on a glass case filled with flutes of strange provenance. It says, "Cattle mutilations. How utterly dreadful. Sends a chill right up my spine, don't you think?"
Well, I don't know. I don't have your spine.
And he kind of twists his body a little bit. I might know something about that, yes.
Well, if you'd be willing to share, I might be willing to patronize your establishment. Perhaps one of these
Oh.
one of these small statuettes.
Yes. Well, go ahead and roll a single die.
That's a 1.
Oh, 1. Not much info being gained
I
here.
think. Is it possible to try again?
It is. You can add a
All right.
insight die and give it a go. Roll
right.
them both together.
6 light.
6 light. We'll come back to this. Father Samuel, you got a pretty good result, right?
Yeah, 4.
4. It's that tower. The building, it's the main church area itself is just it's like any rural Catholic church that doesn't see much use. It's practically a historical site at this point. But that stone structure, the stone is not a stone you recognize. Not that you would necessarily recognize such things, but it's odd. It has an oiliness to it. It almost seems like it's seeping in a way. Something in the stone is weeping out. Father Alonso says, "Yes, of course, yes, David Lane. Are you a friend of Mr. Lane?" This is to Norbert.
A particular friend, yes. Mr. Lane and I grew up together in Boston and served in France together.
Ah. Yes, well, well, praise God that you were able to return from the war alive. Yes, David, we met once or twice, and we kept up a correspondence. He was very interested in, well, different things related to the history. He was very intrigued by some of the ancient peoples that used to live in this area. I agreed to do some research for him and compile it for him. I collected a number of things from the library. Different sorts of information. He never responded back. I don't know where he is or what may have happened to him.
Perhaps you missed the newspaper article in the Silver City Examiner, but he's been missing these last number of weeks. I would be ever so grateful if you could show me the collection of correspondence and studies you've put together for him. I'm trying to see if I can locate him for his parents.
Yes, I would be very happy. Could you give me until, say, tomorrow morning? I should have things gathered for you then.
Indeed, I'm staying at the hotel just nearby.
Ah, yes, good. The Herrera Hotel. Splendid. And
Father Samuel looks like directly at them when Norbert made mention of the Silver City examiner and the missing person. Like, kind of like glances over. Still doesn't interject yet, but that like kind of like snapped him out of just looking around and is now actively paying attention to their conversation a little bit.
Yeah. I think you rolled pretty well, right, Norbert? You got a 5, if I recall correctly. He will pull you aside at a certain point to where only you can hear, and he says, check the barn. The barn just outside of town, to the south.
Without saying anything, I think Norbert would slip from out of his pea coat the hand-drawn map and just hold it out for him to point to where that would be.
He points. I'm
And I
sorry,
don't know.
Samuel, say again what you were doing.
It's just that once Norbert brought up the missing persons case in the newspaper, he kind of like looked, that got his attention from just looking in the periphery, like looking over the conversation, kind of sees them like get pulled aside and speak real close, and cranes his neck a little bit, but doesn't strain to listen. And casually, in a socially acceptable way, begins like walking over there to like clearly like interject into the conversation politely once he's walking over.
The bent old priest says, so what do you think of my little chapel here, Father Samuel?
I have to say that it's quite lovely. Indeed, I noticed the stone of the tower is very distinct. You said it was here before. Was it from an old mission previous, or another structure entirely?
Well, if history is correct, that tower was here before even the conquistadors landed. It's been here
the
for a very
natives.
long time. Well,
indeed.
And yet none of the native folks around here that I've spoken to know anything about it.
Quite an enigma. But yes, the church itself is very lovely. I mean no offense by this, but I noticed that it's not exactly well attended. I can tell that you don't have a thriving mass.
No, we don't. It's yes. Well,
I trust, though, even as small of a community as Castronegro is, even more so for a priest, you must know many of the locals, even if they don't frequent these grounds.
Yes. I do try to get out to speak to people whenever I'm able. Though you have to understand, people from Castronegro are a fairly insular lot in general.
Of course, and I do not mean to step on any toes here at all. I was looking to speak with a local. Do you know a gentleman by the name of Philip Villela Pereira?
Oh yes. Cousin of mine. Well, you can't throw a rock without hitting a cousin if you're from around here. He runs a little tobacco shop just south of here on the other side.
Oh, is that right? Fantastic. I was hoping to speak with him. Then, that makes it quite easy then. Thank you. Anything I should know about him? I again, like I said, I don't want to commit any, as the French say, Mr. Church, I don't want to commit any faux pas in our first interactions with the locals.
Well, I think they're going through some family troubles at the moment. You might be careful around that subject matter.
Duly noted. Family troubles. I see.
And he says, well, I will get on this gathering information for you, Mr. Church. I do have some of the materials still at hand that I was not able to get over to Mr. Lane. Come find me in the morning and we can discuss it. Say hello to Cousin Philip.
I will. But Norbert, you're going to say something.
I'm in your debt, Father.
And
I think as Father Samuel and Norbert are leaving, as like they walk a bit further down from the immediate doors, Samuel like touches Norbert on his arm to kind of be like hey, come over here, like let's like walk over here for a second and speak in confidence, and just says, Mr. Church, it is beginning to strike me that the four of us here may all share a similar purpose in being in this town. I could not help but overhear these old adobe churches are quite prone to echoing that you are looking for a missing person. And I recall on the bus ride here, Mr. Harrow mentioned that his professor was not heard from in some time. I don't know much of Miss Reed's plans, but I have the gut feeling that we all are here looking after people who've come to Castronegro and have not been heard from since.
It does seem to be more than a coincidence that so many of us, even as Jorge, the bus driver, pointed out, would arrive at such a same time for the same reasons. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps some terrible fate has befallen all of our relations and friends.
I do not wish to think ill of small communities just because they are insular and removed from other communities at large, but I do find myself feeling that something is wrong here. Something unsettles me, I'm willing to admit.
It feels like a good cut. Mr. Harrow, you finish up your research before you have to head back over to the Herrera Hotel for dinner. I'll tell you what you discover. In addition to this grisly information about missing babies, you will also learn quite a little bit about the history of the Castronegro area before the town was settled. Much seems to be conjecture, and there are a few real facts, but there was a tribe of Indians, Native Americans, evidently unrelated to the nearby Apaches and Comanches and Zuni and Navajo. They were there much earlier. They raised at least one stone monolith, and the names of their gods were retained for hundreds of years by the neighboring tribes as a curse. This ancient tribe was eventually wiped out. But they left behind a few relics, which were something of a particular fascination of the conquistador who first landed here, Bernardo de Diaz. As you are leaving, Ephraim Diaz, stationed in front of the private room, says, "Did you find everything you were looking for?"
More than I thought I could, to be honest. If you don't mind, I will probably be back to continue if that's all right. I will be
Yes.
staying at the hotel, so if there's more time, quite a family history you have.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, enjoy the rest of your stay.
Oh, thank you very much. Awkwardly head out.
Millicent, you've been standing there, holding Filippo Diaz's hand for an unknown amount of time. The sun is actually lower in the sky by the time you realize it. Are you quite all right, madam? You seem to have gone a little blank for a moment.
Oh, and she looks out the window and just sort of sees the sun lower in the sky and the clouds sort of speckled out across the blue. And she looks back to Filippo.
Make an
and
insight
says,
roll.
"Oh no." But I don't want to. That's a 1.
Oh, okay. You're keeping it together.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I'm sorry, it's been a long day of travel and I have not eaten yet.
I've
but as I
managed to
mentioned,
collect a few things for you, madam. Things that you might find interesting. You claim to be something of an enthusiast when it comes to the occult.
something like that.
Yes. And he's gathered a few things. They're there. You don't even remember him going away to gather them, but there they are. This is a beautiful, striking piece. Very rare. Wax cylinder. You'll have to find a way to play it back, of course, but I think that effort will be well rewarded.
Yes, I have a player at home. I will have to find one in town. Do you perhaps know where I could find a player?
A little statuette you seem to have your eyes on. There, stroke it with your fingers.
She does, hesitantly.
Yes. Do you feel the power surging through it, madam?
I feel
Practically
something, yes.
throbbing with energy. You had a question?
I did. Just about the cattle mutilations.
Oh, right. The subject of meat.
Yes.
I don't want to keep you, madam. It's almost dinner time at the Herrera Hotel. They'll be expecting you.
Of course. What's the damage?
Let's just say this one's on the house. From one enthusiast to another. I do such a brisk mail order business. I'm very blessed in that way. I can afford to let a piece or two go from time to time.
Perhaps you could get me one of your cards so that when I'm back home, I might procure more of your items.
Perhaps
And then
I could.
Yes, well, thank you again. I will be in touch. And if he's bending down at all or like going to find a business card, I did want to try and snatch the book on meat without him seeing.
Make the doing other things roll. It's the same type of roll, just roll one die.
Okay. 2.
You'll get it. You succeed. But in order to succeed, you have to like rush out in a hurry and you leave the other things behind.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Are you looking at the book on the way over back to the Herrera Hotel?
No, but she'll go back up to her room and look at it.
So you're going back up to your room to read. Father Samuel, Mr. Harrow, Norbert, you all can go back and search the church more later if you wish, but we're doing cinematic pacing here. Are you all going to go eat fajitas with the Herreras?
I am quite hungry.
Norbert, skirt steak for you?
Soup. Skirt steak soup.
Oh, that's right. Soup. Mr. Harrow.
They just give him the beef drippings from the pot.
Gross. I think you're all sitting around the three of you are sitting at a table with a oilcloth laid over it. Lupe comes. She has gray hair, dark brown eyes. She's the only woman you've seen so far, actually. She sets down sizzling meat, some sort of broth for you, Norbert. Lays it all down. She says nothing. She's perfectly silent. Juan Herrera, lanky, blonde, blue-eyed Juan Herrera. He says, once again, so delighted to have you here with us tonight. Do enjoy. And he leaves you to it. Upstairs, Millicent, you're thumbing through on the subject of meat. Written by Gabriela Herrera, a woman who claims to be a descendant of the original Gabriela Herrera, who was a witch from this area. This particular treatise is on the power conferred by consuming human flesh.
Is
You
it
hear
particularly
scratching.
graphic? Oh, go on.
You hear scratching from the outside, from the wall where a window should be. What do you do?
She puts the book down, and I imagine when she puts it down, the book is open to a particularly grisly illustration of someone being flayed.
Make an insight roll for that.
Yeah. And she'll approach the wall, and with the 6 insight roll,
Definitely going up.
She'll press her ear against the wall to listen to see if it's really what she thinks it is.
The scratching on the other side of the wall goes quiet. But now you hear directly opposite you from your door. On the other side of your door, you hear and you can see something moving in front of the keyhole. What do?
She presses her back against the wall, and she'll call out, yes, may I help you?
Whoever it is, their voice is right at the keyhole. What do?
I think she's steeling herself and says, oh, mind yourself, this is a lady, this is a lady's room. Please, I'm with friends. Please go away.
We will end our session with our camera zooming in tight on the keyhole to your door. As we get closer in, we see on the other side of it, staring in at you, is a bright, vivid green eye. Let's go to Stars and Wishes. Stars are things you enjoyed about the session. Wishes are things that you hope to see next time. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Well, never mind. Jack goes first. Never mind.
No, you go first. It's fine.
Yes. So just general star to Jason for just the enthusiasm of which you've always talked about the Secret of Castronegro on previous episodes of our podcast, and also just in passing conversation has had me very excited for this module that you're so deeply familiar with, and the way you present everything was very cinematic. I mean, this is a staple of your GMing for sure, but I can tell that this is something you're both passionate about and deeply familiar with. And it just really like lives and breathes in a horrifying and an intriguing way. In particular, Millicent's dealings with that very, very creepy man. I just that was a really particularly like enjoyable moment. Your voice was giving me like goosebumps. Ken, this is my first time playing with you, and Norbert is I've also in a
I think you're breaking up.
You're breaking up just a bit, Alex.
Yeah. No, and I think he's frozen.
Yeah, we lost
I got
Alex.
him.
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah. We'll check back in with you, Alex, if somebody else wants to
Character
go.
who speaks to the side
Yeah.
of his mouth like that. So just like, and so
he's
far I
back.
kind of like this. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wait. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you were like you started like stuttering. We can't. So just start over. Something you were talking about, Ken.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying, Ken, I really was really enjoying Norbert as a character. I've also, in a COC game, played a war veteran who spoke out the side of his mouth with the disfigurement and all that. So I like that voice a lot. But also this like kind of like now, I guess we've set up a dynamic with Father Samuel and Norbert kind of in on this like possible dark secret conspiracy. So I'm very excited to explore that. Gabriel, very fun to be in the co-player seat with you. I know that our last experience together was the Silt versus game with you GMing. I definitely just like playing at the table with you, and I like James as a character so far. These are kind of segueing into wishes of just I'm excited to have more interactions with James. I like all of us being like lodgers and like having this kind of like shared like we have different paths we're following, but we're realizing they're all kind of intersecting. So I general star to everybody because your characters were they really felt like it gave me a lot to like play off of with Father Samuel, and just kind of go off in the investigatory routes we were taking. This town and this setting it feels very real and creepy, and I want to keep diving into its secrets. Like, no, and even though I know that's going to be the death of us all, I want to continue to pry. And Jack, Millicent's little grilling of Father Samuel in the bus ride. What do you think of black magic? And it's like, oh, I'm gonna call like that was it immediately helped me find my footing as a character, because I was like, oh yeah, I want him to be kind of just uncomfortable. And yeah, so that was I really like that scene a lot. I'm just looking forward to tomorrow's session.
Yeah, the vibes, they were vibing. Another star for the voices and the ambiance. Jason, clearly this is something that you're knowledgeable about, but like there's just these little, I feel like you've been able to like refine it to a point where like you're able to insert these little ticks and these little mannerisms that make it even more creepy. Like for me, it was the weird clicking sound that you did with your mouth when you were talking to James. And it was just the subtle thing, but it was so unsettling to me. And the pausing and the pacing was really, really good. Overall, Ken, I don't think I've played with you either. But the moment where Norbert just sort of puts down the paper on the desk to interrupt Juan was just like, oh, that's him. He's not going to take anything. Like, he's here for business. And it was such an immediate thing that like made it click for me who he was, and I really appreciated that. I love getting to bounce back and forth with Father Samuel. I think that, and this is also partially wish, I think that there's going to be some interesting sort of like not only crises of faith, but also sort of even more questioning of the supernatural as we both go along. And so I'm sort of interested to see how that dynamic develops over the course of this. But yeah, it was good to volley off of you with him, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then James, always fun to play with you, Gabriel. And yeah, this is a star and a wish, but like your characterization of him on the bus was really specific. And I want to see more of this sort of hidden possible anger or possible anxiety that he's going through, like the kind of frustration that you conveyed there. I really want to see more of that come out. And but overall, I thought the scene of him with Ephraim, who was also super creepy, obviously, was really fun. And yeah, overall, just excited to see what nighttime is like in this place. And yeah, also start to that last scene with the moaning and the scratching and the all hitting with the meat being presented on the table and the book on cannibalism. I thought it was really, really good pacing, really good.
I'll jump in. I just, echoing what has already been said. Jason, it's clear that you not just love this, but inhabit this world, and it just sort of came alive. In each scene, it was just atmospheric and helped RP so much. And then I'm grateful. I feel like I'm playing with a bunch of RP rock stars. The hard framing of the bus ride in was very easy, I think, for organically all of us to jump into character. And I did not realize this, but it's in the title, the secrets. We all start with secrets, and we're all pursuing our own secrets, and they're slowly going to sort of come out as we decide how much we're going to reveal to each other or need to reveal to one another as we go through it. And I love how that's also pushing, what I initially thought of as the character in different directions, and compelling some of the role play. And then just some moments that pop off, like that discussion of the meat with Juan and James, and the salivation that was happening was palpable. And looking at Gabriel's face as you were,
that scene was really fun. I was really
so
having a lot of fun with that scene.
I'm like uncomfortable for Gabriel as I'm watching transpire. It was great. And then the same thing with Millicent at the tomb, with the same uncanny weirdness that had been happening. And you could hear the trepidation in Millicent's voice as it became more evident that this guy was really strange. And then RPing with Father Sam at the church was also that beginning of the kind of partnership of detecting what's happening. It was great. I'm really, really looking forward to the next 2 days to see what happens.
Big star for the atmosphere. I really appreciate how I'm getting the sense of isolation and strangeness and deep history, but both as a player and as a character, this specific feeling that, like, I know I need to ask about this place, but I don't want to learn more. Like, as I'm talking to these creepy NPCs, I'm like, I want to get this conversation over with. This is going to be terrible no matter what. And that's like a perfect place to be trapped in as a character. So that feeling of creeping dread is amazing. And genuinely we'll probably never find out everything there is to know here. This deep sense of history is amazing. I have fun. As a player, I'm still learning to role play how I'd like to. So getting to ease into it as a character who is kind of unsure and nervous kind of works. And especially in those moments of strangeness with the NPCs, trying to do the polite thing because he doesn't know what else to do. Like, what is going on here? Which is, I think, more interactions with the other characters. Like Jack was saying, I think James is fascinated with Millicent and how to approach that. But I think it would be fun to see how their interests collide. How James, being maybe a bit open-minded, is like, I've never met a medium. How does this work? That kind of thing. And seeing how our different drives kind of line up, as well as getting past that rationalization of, oh, it's fine, maybe they just went somewhere else, they're just not here, to realizing, like, hang on a second, something's really wrong here. So I love getting to play with that and look forward to seeing how that unfolds over the other sessions.
Yeah, Stars, I'm really happy to be back in Castronegro. It is a setting that to me, like, just fits like a comfortable pair of jeans. Like, it's just, I slide right into it. And so I had a lot of fun with that. And yet I still try to find like different ways of characterizing the characters that I've played so many times in different ways. I was trying to do something a little slightly different with Juan Herrera this time, and that really came out in that quite creepy scene with James at the desk. I wasn't even sure if like when I was role playing that out, I was like, I wonder if the players are even picking up what I'm putting down right now. Like are they getting it? Like, and I think I could tell eventually that like you were, but like it was a really particular kind of thing I was going for with him. Um, but it's very fun to like, these are fun characters to play, and I was really excited to get to play them again. So thank you all for just being here and engaging in this with me. I really loved Ken. You kept using this particular phrase about David, uh, my particular friend. I loved that. Like that repetition of that phrase was so good because it feels like such like 1920s in the closet talk, right? And like I really like that a lot. Um, I thought Millicent was fabulous. I really liked her a lot. I love, she feels so like, on the one hand, like kind of fish out of water, but on the other hand, she's the most like kind of locked into like what's really going on in Castronegro, and I kind of like that duality of it. I think that's really fun. The scene with Filippo and her was really enjoyable. I always play him like very crypt keeper style, like kind of like weirdness. I try to play them all a little differently. You got so many green-eyed Diaz's and Villela Pereiras. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, just really enjoyable. Loved the scene. I really loved the bus scene. That was actually probably the most fun of the bus scenes I've done. Like sometimes that scene doesn't really, I mean, it's sometimes it's just sort of like, okay, we're just getting started and we don't have too much to say yet. But you all really like had a scene there, and it was fun, and I could feel it. Like I could feel the tension in the moment. Like even the fact, even Norbert being kind of quiet in that scene, like had its own like tension and power to it, right? Because I could just imagine Norbert kind of sitting there, intentionally not engaging with everyone, and I can imagine Jorge glimpsing up at the mirror, looking at you all from time to time as you said things, and I liked the little sort of like cat and mouse between Millicent and Father Samuel. That was all really good and fun, and I also really liked James in that scene too. It was a lot of fun because it was like there was like this like unsteadiness to the role play of the character, which I thought was really great. It came off great. But yeah, everyone did a great job. I'm just really excited. Part 2 always ramps up. Part 1 is always like the setup. Your session 1's kind of the setup session, and session 2 is when the horror really gets going. And so I'm excited to come back tomorrow and do more of that.
Yeah, I'm really sort of as a wish, but I like, because I haven't really done anything where it's like 3 days in a row of this sort of thing. So I'm really curious to see how it like translate to how we receive the story and the horror.
It's going to feel very immediate, right? Like you're not going to forget details over the course of a week or two. That's for sure. Any other stars or wishes before we go? Okay, well, I'm going to wave goodbye, and we'll see you tomorrow.